Planning Policy meeting to order of July 8th. First on the agenda is public comment. Any public comment at this time? Mr. Bouchards.
Good morning, everybody. Michael Bashir, CEO, CMH. I wanted to update you on a thing that happened last week that I know the press reported about. Some of our commissioners were asked about the closure of the Robert Brown Crisis Program that we have for CMH. So I thought I'd take a couple of minutes just to explain why we did that and the implications to CMH and our community. So Robert Brown Crisis Unit is a crisis unit that helped us with the diversions of people from psychiatric hospitalization. It's been part of our program for many years. And it was one of the resources we used to prevent people from going into the hospital. However, it was a partnership with multiple counties, Allegan, Muskegon. It's a 6-bed crisis residential program. It's not permanent residential housing, and so it can get confusing. This is a temporary place people go anywhere between 3 to 7 days, a maximum of 14 days, instead of, say, Holland Hospital, Pine Rest Hospital. It was a 3-county partnership funding 6 beds. We had 2 beds. Allegan, Muskegon had 2 beds. The other partners pulled out the beginning of the fiscal year because there are other resources they could utilize besides Robert Brown. Robert Brown was a cost of over $600 a day. We had to purchase all 6 beds on a contract with Hope Network, who ran it for us, to maintain the placement, meaning we were paying for the beds if we filled them or not. After analysis for the first quarter, we spent over $185,000 on empty beds. We were able to divert folks to other crisis unit programs in Grand Rapids. There's some in Kalamazoo and one in Muskegon. And it did not make fiscal sense to have it remain open. So we met with Hope Network. And they said unless we were actually able to keep prepaying for all these beds continuously at the $600 rate, that they would have to stop operations. So we mutually agreed to do that. I had my staff put together an analysis. Some of you have seen it. I can send it to the full commission if you'd like, about how we made this decision, the fiscal impact. We believe that we can divert folks to hospitalization with our other programs that we're utilizing. And those programs cost far less, $400 a day versus $600 a day. So I do not believe it was fiscally sound for us to continue to pay for empty beds to that extent. We also have a new agreement with Holland Hospital to use their partial hospitalization program that works similarly as a crisis unit. And that is cheaper than the Brown Center crisis unit. And so we've asked Holland Hospital to step up. They've agreed to admit folks into their partial program. And that will also be a way for us to address the issue. Wow, I actually ended my last sentence on that. I'll take any questions on that.
Beyond mine, do we? All right, yeah, we can, yeah. Any questions, comments?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time? Seeing none, move on to the approval agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Support.
Motion made, support. All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Consent resolutions. Approval of the minutes from June 10, 2020 of the Planning Council. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of June 10?
So moved. Support.
Any comments or discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Move on to the agenda and action items. First action item is to go into closed session. Purpose of considering the purchase of lease of a real property pursuant of OMA Section 8D.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made, supported. Please call the roll.
Mr. Teeples.
Yes.
Mr. Barry.
Yes.
Mr. Bonema.
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey.
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra.
Yes.
Mrs. Wenzel.
Yes.
Mrs. Miedema.
Yes.
Mr. Juritzma.
Yes.
Mr. Kyers.
Yes.
Motion passes.
What's what? We were out here.
You know where?
Maybe in like.
Feels like
Is it?
in 2 weeks, it's like.
Couple
Just
times.
make it in. I feel that with
Doug,
the
go.
legislature too.
I was at high school, we used to go pheasant hunting out there.
Really?
What he's missing? Sure you can find
I
it.
got to use the restroom.
Listen, who else? What other commissioners missing?
They're doing more like cabin. Josh.
Going, going, Josh.
How could I forget Josh?
How could you forget?
Find some woodcock.
Thought we'd go in September when most people. Well, then they mentioned. Damon?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did. Looking. Totally different.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get my husband into the farm. So, my husband gets a little more nervous when you go out.
Right.
So, like it would be an.
Right, we are back out of closed session and move on to action item number 2. The Bend area open expansion. The motion is to approve and forward to the Board of Commissioners the purchase agreement and the license reclamation agreement between the County of Ottawa and Grand Rapids Gravel Company for the acquisition of 184.79 acres to expand the Bend area open space, including the seller's obligations to complete site reclamation consistent with applicable mining license and the township requirements, to authorize the Parks Director to execute all documents necessary to implement the intent of the board, including closing, recording, reclamation-related documents, and further to approve an increase in the budget for capital project CPA 2-102, Bend Area Expand and Acquisition, Phase 3, at $1,179,407.36, with funding acquisition,
Allocated.
allocated, thank you. Equally from the Ottawa County Parks 208 funded encumbered fund balance from the Ottawa County Parks Foundation. Is there a motion?
Second.
Jason.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioners. So we have before you today a purchase agreement that's been executed by myself and the seller, representatives from Grand Rapids Gravel. This will be expanding the existing Bend area open space, which is approximately 450 acres now, by another 184 acres. So it will include quite a bit of open water as well as developable land on the southwest portion of the property. So the acquisition will incorporate reclamation activities that after we close, Grand Rapids Gravel will have 150 days to complete. All the specifications are laid out in the license and reclamation agreement and the grading plan that's included as part of the purchase agreement. So this will be done in conjunction with funding from a Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant, as well as funding support from the Ottawa County Parks Foundation. So we would expect to, if all goes accordingly, we would expect to close the end of August. A portion of the property would be able to be open with 90 days after closing. And then the reclamation activities would take us into the spring, and we would do a dedication at some point next spring. So.
Any comments, questions about Jason?
Just want to say thank you for all your work on this. I think it's a good deal and I'm happy for our citizens for getting to enjoy this property. So thank you.
And it certainly, this was a vision that the Parks Commission had shortly after forming, and the first Bend in the River Master Plan was developed in 2000, updated in 2010, in conjunction with the township and the various property owners there along the river. So we're excited to continue that great work.
So this was part of the parks plan too, to give more activities in that part of the county. We wanted to spread them around a little bit, and this is what our thoughts out there to really improve the Bend area. And we've been working on this for a long time, and I'm sure John Schultz will really be happy about this too. So thank you, Jason.
Yep, my pleasure.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Barry,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Bonema,
Yes.
Mrs. Wenzel,
Yes.
Mrs. Medema,
Yes.
Mr. Dritzma,
Yes.
Mr. Teeples.
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Now we move on to health and human services updates to public health. Adeline, Public Health Officer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, the microphone's loud today. So I have a couple updates of note related to the budget. I think I mentioned it a couple times. We're working on a fee study for our environmental health fees that we set for the various services like restaurant licenses, well and septic permits. We haven't updated those since 2018. They were due to be updated kind of right at the height of COVID. That was not prioritized at the time. And so right now, pardon me, we're working with fiscal services and then MGT consulting firm to kind of go through and review those and bring a proposal back to the board. We're expecting that will be in August for you to take a look at and review. I just wanted to mention it here so it wasn't coming out of nowhere in August. Some seasonal information. Right now, I think you may have seen the news that there were, I think I saw 10 drowning deaths in Michigan over July 4. So we're putting out some information on water safety and rip currents on our Facebook page, our socials. Those should be up today. But also combined with that, we do beach water sampling is in full effect. So we sample our beaches once a week for water quality. So those results are posted on the website as well for people to check out. We do issue notices and advisories if we have high bacteria counts so that people are aware. One thing of note too that's happening this summer that happened last summer, that Grand Haven dredging is happening. And so they're dredging out of the Grand and then they deposit it to a beach, I believe on the south side. And last year we saw some increases in bacteria in the water when the soil was kind of stirred up. And so we're working really closely with the Army Corps of Engineers this year and doing some sampling and monitoring there. Our advice is though, if people do go to the beach and it looks murky, not like Lake Michigan usually does, if it's kind of murky and looks like there's a lot of suspended sediment, that it might not be a good day to swim. Let's see. The other, I was joking in the back, glamorous part of public health are mosquitoes and ticks. And we have put out quite a bit of information about bite prevention for mosquitoes and ticks. We do sampling for both. And we've had a positive West Nile pool in our mosquito samples. And we've also had a positive for Jamestown Canyon virus, which is a new one for us. And so we've been really trying to get information out on bite prevention and using bug spray. There are infected mosquitoes in the community, so the most you can do to prevent yourself from being bitten, the better. And on that, we partnered with Parks. If anybody would like more information, they're doing a bites and bloodsuckers presentation tonight at 6 o'clock at Hemlock Crossing. So they'll be talking about ticks, mosquitoes, and touching on rabies a little bit as well. So if you have a free night and are interested in learning more about all of those lovely critters, please attend. So that's pretty much the highlights that are kind of seasonal happening right now. If anybody has any questions, concerns, or desires for future presentations from our programs, please let me know.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee reports. Water Resources Report. Mr. Bush.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and rest of the board. It's a quiet group this morning.
Yeah,
Oh, man. Smile. Be happy. Well, thanks for this opportunity to give you an update on the annual report. Everybody's had a good chance over the weekend to look at it, get ready for any questions you have. But I want to start out by saying where my heart has been lately has been in Texas with seeing that kind of devastation. Being the Water Resources Commissioner, it's near and dear to my heart. But to see the devastation on what water can do and how powerful water is, whether you have not enough, like right now, we're starving for water. Farmers are calling me daily going, how do we get some water? But then you go down in Texas and they have way too much water. But the impact on that is it's just unbelievable. The stories are incredible. But yeah, I just want to say how I take this job very seriously, being a countywide elected official and talk about water. So the timing is right for me to share my heart, that my heart pours out for the folks and North Carolina as well. They just had a similar situation. So that they had a while back. So they're having issues with water too much. Again, I'm happy to be here in front of you. And I was told I had half an hour, so I'll make it as quick as possible. We'll start out by, it's not working. What we do. So we're responsible for planning, developing, and maintaining surface water drainage systems under Public Act 40 of 1956, which is the drain code. I've shared with many of you what the drain code is and how important it is to the state of Michigan and why we're elected. So that's what we do. Ottawa County Water Resources Department is made up of many moving parts, all focused on serving the people, businesses and associates of Ottawa County, Michigan, with the highest levels of environmental stewardship, efficiency, and economical consequences. So we take our job very seriously. My team does a lot. Sometimes we're not well known when things are good, but when things turn, we're very important. So we try to keep infrastructure in place where it's at and keep maintenance up and keep doing our job to the highest level to serve the residents of Ottawa County. So I want to make sure I talk about my team because I couldn't do it alone. My team is very, very crucial to me. So we have the soil erosion sediment control, SC. We got the municipal, which is called MS4, but it's called Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Systems, which my department holds the county's permit for that. So we oversee it countywide. We got a drain inspector, and that's the maintenance and creations of drains. And mind you, we only have one inspector and myself. So we have 1,000 drains. So we're very busy all the time, year round. We never get slow, that's for sure. Development review, and then our GIS is a huge part of what we do. I think every department relies on GIS, and that's one of the most important key technology that we need to keep updated, because without GIS, we would be lost. And then our financial management to manage all the 1,000 drains and ponds, and that's a whole nother PowerPoint I could do for 4 hours, talk about the financial side. Oh, now it's moving. So some highlights I want to talk about is our soil erosion program. This is all in 24, so these numbers are going to be about the same in 25 if I forecast it, but 965 active permits, and we had 630 new soil erosion permits in 24. So in 23, we had 565. So you can see that's it's going up a little bit. And then it gives the numbers. I can go through these in more detail, but for the sake of time, it's approximately 300 active permits inspections are performed a week. And we have one soil erosion inspector and the agent. But to give you an idea, 300 permit inspections we do a week, every week. Rain or not rain. If we have rain, that could be even higher than that, because we got to go check out what we're doing and what they're doing. And again, everything on these slides, the bottom people on there are the people I want to make sure I acknowledge, because they actually make this happen in my department, and they're awesome at what they do. Just to give an idea, I got a lot of pictures. I know there's 42 slides, but I want to talk about soil erosion and how important it is that we do a good job at it to, again, protect our waterways, to keep the maintenance down. But one of the worst things to have is erosion. So we make sure that this is what it looks like when we're in the field. This gives a good idea of we oversee these. These practices right here If you could see the progress in this particular project, and that was an awesome project, but this is typically what it should be looking like. So we don't have erosion or sediment in drains downstream, creates more maintenance if we don't do these good measures. What we look for: erosion, contaminants, vegetation, best management practices. This is kind of what we look for when they do soil erosion inspections. And then you see that black fence around. As with all the development we've had in Ottawa County, you'll see these in a lot of locations. They're like, why do they put that silly black fence up? Well, it's very crucial that they do it, install it properly, but also that it doesn't get sediment or other stuff into the drains or ponds. MS4, and then this is where it gets really crazy, where this MS4 program has really gotten bigger, and this is all regulated again through the state. Joe didn't develop this, neither did Ottawa County. The state actually requires this. We have an MS4 permit through the state. We get audited. We've always had great audits, but that relates back to my staff and leadership. So again, 8,000 catch basins in 2024 that we have identified. 1,400 of those got cleaned in 24, and then we did 1,667 inspections in 83 drain districts. That's not 83 counties, even though we have 83 counties, but it's 83 drain districts, and we have about 1,000 drain districts. So if it gives you an idea of, and then that's our future total outfalls, 652 total outfalls in 24. 300 were inspected, and all 300 passed inspection and water testing, because we test the outfalls in those particular drains, which is required. Here's a typical picture of what catch basin and outfalls look like. What we do: we clean them, water test them. Here's some ponds, just to give you an idea of. We had 310, this is all in GIS and what we have ownership of, 310 ponds in 2024, with 62 ponds inspected and 23 ponds scheduled for maintenance in 25. But that gives you an idea of what those ponds were looking like. People are like, why do you maintain those? Well, they're all calculated to store an amount of water in those ponds during heavy rains. And if they're not cleaned and performing at their highest level, that could create flooding issues. So we try to stay on top of that, which is, again, a challenge because we're adding more ponds and drains every year with the growth. The last 12 years, I could do a whole PowerPoint on just the growth in Ottawa. Here's another thing we do is look for illicit discharges. These are things, we had 8 of them in 24. This is near a junkyard, and it just gives you an idea of what we get calls on for our MS4 inspector. And then he goes out, looks at it. We do water sampling. We work with the health department. We work with Eagle. But, again, Evan Canute is in charge of this program, and he does a phenomenal job. So I want to make sure I acknowledge his name on the bottom. But these are things we go look for, and this is kind of how we contain it. I know there was more into it. There's more pictures, but for sake of time, I didn't want to keep adding them. But we had a lot more involved. But this is kind of what we do at the first initial call, is capture it, get to the catch basins, suck the catch basins out, put sandbags in even further downstream if we have to, but this is kind of just an overview. Drain inspections, inspection reports. Again, I got one inspector and myself, but just to highlight, 407 IRs in 24. So we did 407 inspection reports, 17 less than 23, probably for a lack of rain potentially. Because rain, as you can tell on that chart, when we go back to 2015, 2019, 2020, when we had all the rain and lake levels in Lake Michigan came up, you can see why the number of calls came in. Drain maintenance costs with petitions. And I put the pie graph in there just to show you, again, when you look at the numbers and where we spent the most money, it was during the years we had a lot of rain, a lot of projects. If we don't get a lot of rain, we don't get a lot of petitions. We just get more drain maintenance requests. But that gives you an idea of, these costs reflect emergency repairs, large scales, redos on drains or street infrastructure. And these are all requested by the public. Joe doesn't go look for these potential projects. These are all petitioned or people who called in. So it's not like I'm out looking for work. Work finds us daily, even when it's dry. Just give an idea, this is a typical Macatawa River intercounty drain. This is over in the upper Mac. This is a bridge they have. Give you an idea, we get phone calls on this one quite often, but we're always cleaning out bridges like this all over the county. We keep our contractors pretty busy by removing debris like this. Even when it's dry, we still get log jams like that. This is another one that's really big. When it is dry, things seem to grow faster. And then when it's weeds and trees, not grass. But this is a typical mow and brush, and we do this daily. Somewhere in the county, we're doing mowing just like that. So if you look to the one slide full of trees, the other one, we mowed it. Similar to this one. This is another one where the Allen drain, this is up in Allendale. And then you can see where it was full, and then we mowed it. Didn't do a dip out. We don't always do a dip out. Depends on, we take shots, elevations, make sure it's not necessary, but that gives you an idea of what that looks like with debris removal. And again, this is all being prepared for a big rain event. Someday we will get rain, and hopefully not a lot, but if we do, we want to make sure all of our infrastructure is functioning at 100%. This is another one, sinkholes. We're dealing with these, now that it's dry, these pop up more often than not, because it seems like a lot of things are settling. Water tables drop, sinkholes pop up daily. These are one of our biggest headaches because they're not an easy fix. You got to dig into them and figure out why they're failing. The other thing we do, pollution cleanup. We do a lot of that too. When we find it or get calls on it, we go out and we go and clean it up. Development review. As you all know, we review developments for most municipalities. And this just gives you an average of where we're at. In 24, we had 91, 25, I'm forecasting 90. I think we're going to be approaching 75 to 80 already, and we're just in the beginning of July. So I can see that number going up quite a bit. Here's just an idea of municipalities. We got it all broken down on who's seeing the most development. But if you drive in Hudsonville, Jamestown, Georgetown, Holland, south of the river, Allendale, I mean, they're still booming. Houses are going up, drains are being installed, and so are ponds and everything else that comes along with it. So GIS, I was talking about how important it is to us. We're always updating GIS for the public, but also for our staff, because in emergencies, we rely on this, or just during the day. We have people call all the time, and we always rely on this. Kind of gives you an idea of what we've added in 24. I can highlight anything at the question and answer at the end, but just gives you an idea of how busy we are with GIS. Something else that's crucial, the infrastructure, and these are lake level control that I have authority over, oversee. Some of these are private, and they're listed private. But this is just a typical picture of one that I probably monitor every other day with farmers, because there's people downstream, upstream, they want water, don't want water. They also protect flooding downstream. Farmers can hold it upstream faster than flooding downstream. So we work together with multiple blueberry growers and corn growers on these control structures, but we've had these throughout the county. Everything in red is where they're placed. But if anybody ever wants to take a tour with me and go look, check these out and how they operate and how the farmers and I coordinate that, because we talk at rain events, we've been talking even of last week, because they irrigate. They use this groundwater for irrigation. So lake boards, as you well know, we got 2 lake boards in Ottawa County. Josh Bruger sits on these 2, and he's actually chairs the Spring Lake Board. But by state statute, I sit on lake boards, and I work with about 20 different, well, more than 20, but I put 20 because that's a consistent thing. But 20 lake associations in Ottawa County that I work with on trying to guide them in the right direction and what they need. Water resources, financials. Again, that's another big part that that we were having, the new position a couple of years, well, going on 2 years, of having a financial person in my office, just because of the amount of drain upkeep on the technology side. We switched over from BS&A, which is the drain ledger they had. They no longer support it, so we had to switch over to another kind of a software, and it was Solid Circle. So we did that in 24, and it's working phenomenal. And then, in my report, it goes through more detail. I won't read it all, but it just makes our life in our department a lot easier, and it helps Karen and her staff more collaboration, takes less time. And then this is kind of the overview of what the financials happened with the revolving fund that the past board in 24 approved, going from $175,000 to $1 million for the revolver. This is what we did in 24, and that's been amazing. That keeps our drain notes down, which I'll get to in a second, but it actually gives an insight of how important it is to have a revolving fund And we're matched, well, Kent actually is bigger than ours, but the amount of work that is required to do drain maintenance, that revolver just, it's money in, money out, money in, money out, but it's good to have. This is another one that I put together, another PowerPoint about talking about managing notes and bonds and the hidden workload behind that from my financial person on how many notes we're getting a year. Even though we have $1 million revolver, we're still getting drain notes because those are longer term projects. And matter of fact, there's a bond note in the next meeting at the financial meeting for the Nash Creek Intercounty. So this highlights what notes, how many we've gotten over the years. And you can see that's based on projects. 20, yeah, we talked about petitions. We had 4 petitions, board determinations. We had 14-day reviews. We assessed 181 drain districts in 24. We're averaging 20 plus minus new drains a year on the average. And then we have 36 active petition projects right now. They were active in 24. Some of those are still active yet. So just give an idea of what that looks like. And then we had the Ottawa County Water Quality Monitoring Project, that 5-year program we put together with the Conservation District. And they'll be coming soon with their year update. So Ben Jordan's putting that together. So this board will be hearing from those folks in the near future of what they've been doing and where they're at and what 24, 25 looks like. So the rest of this year and next year. So they'll be giving that update, but that was in 24 when we got that approved. And then this is some of the key highlights of what they're doing. And the community impact of, again, the TIMDOs, the MS4 stormwater permit, the engagement with Career Line Tech and what they're doing for us. And then it's just watershed plans and updating future funding, restoration and infrastructure improvements. That's what the monitoring was set up for. Something else we did last year, we did a first time ever drain cleanup on drain number 40, which is in Holland Township. We had 19 volunteers, 1,500 pounds of garbage, just in a little under a 1 mile stretch. Something else happened last year. I know some folks were there in 24 at the Water Quality Forum at Pigeon Creek Lodge, which was a great event that was funded through sponsorships. And I raised all that money just to make sure it wasn't cost to the taxpayer. But it was a phenomenal event. As you could tell, the room was full. We actually outgrew it in this year for in 25. So I'll be excited to share that for next year. But at the Water Quality, we had 215 that attended. We had 10 different speakers. We had 5 sponsors. And again, it was 100% funded by sponsorship. So the county taxpayers didn't pay for that. But I felt it was urgent to put that on. And it was a great education for the community. I know there's a few people who showed up from, I think they were there, but it was a great event. And again, in 25, just to highlight, in 25, we did the one in, we just did the Water Quality Forum over in Bill Worse's Pinnacle Center, and we had 350 people there. I know a few of you folks showed up there, and that was a phenomenal event. We had 21 sponsors this past March, and yeah, we raised over 20 grand to make sure everything was covered, food, lunch. It was a phenomenal event. 25 projections, again, increase in orphan drain petitions. I just sent an email not too long ago to a few folks about how Georgetown Township's looking at petitioning me to take over some orphan drains. We have about 500 that we think of in Georgetown Township that are orphans that are not mine, but Georgetown Township would like to start petitioning me those to become a county drain. So that's going to be on the next future radar. And Holland Township's been doing that for about 12 years. They do about 5 a year to make those orphans into a county drain system. Georgetown wants to pick up on that and move forward with their infrastructure. So, and then MS4 is expanding. It's already big. It's according to our growth, the census and the state, it's going to be a lot bigger. So they're going to be increasing it quite a bit for the MS4 program. And then development reviews, you know, if I forecast 25, 26, we're still seeing, I'm getting a lot of requests to meet developers on site in different parts of the county to see if they can develop it and working with the townships to get it through their planning process. So I can see it very active in 25. Just wanted to highlight, how am I doing on time, Regina? I'm over. Okay, well, I'll be quick. I just want to make sure that these are our primary contractors that we use on a daily basis. We bid our work out. These are our primary bidders. And somewhere in the county, you'll see one of these fine companies working for us, for Ottawa County, doing a fine job. And then our engineering environmental partners, people are like, who do you use? Well, this is pretty much the list of all the engineering environmental partners. We don't use just one or two people. We're so busy, we have to spread it out with so many people because otherwise we wouldn't get work done. But these are a fine list of great professional organizations. Our legal counsel is Fahey Schultz. And then these are another, I got to thank these fine organizations as well because I partner with these folks on a daily basis somewhere in the county. And I couldn't do it alone if it wasn't for this list of people who make things happen. And I'm happy, and that's my list of my team, which I'm very proud of. And they work hard to serve the residents. So I'm happy to take any questions if I didn't put anybody to sleep.
Yeah.
Morning, Jacob.
Joe, thanks for being here.
Yeah,
and,
you're welcome.
Yeah, great report, fantastic team that you built. There's a lot going on in your department. I just want to thank you for the extra effort that you put in for these water quality forums, these summits that you pull together, because they're so appreciated. And I know that you personally pick up the phone to raise that money.
I called every single one of those
Call
people.
every single, that's a lot of work. So,
Mhm.
and so informative and beneficial to the community. So I know that you're not required to do that, but I want to thank you. I've not expressed my gratitude to you before for that. So I wanted to take this opportunity to do that today. Water, of course, is just critical to everything that we do, too much or too little. Is there anything that keeps you awake at night?
When it rains. So one thing I want to highlight, people are like, well, a lot of questions. Are we getting prepared for the big rain? If we ever get that big rain like we did in 2013, we had a lot of rain. Grand River flooded, tributaries, we had a lot of water. FEMA was here. We had so much flooding, FEMA was called in. I worked with our old emergency manager and the sheriff's department. But, we're always communicating with Lou Hunt all the time. We're always communicating with NOAA, with the Weather Service. Ellen Bach is a dear good friend of mine from Wood TV8. So we're always in communication, and I watch the weather, and my wife will tell you our date nights consist of when it's raining, we drive around, look at all the hot spots, and make sure nobody's going to flood. And we do that at any time of the night. If I see lightning's coming and I watch the radar and I'm like, a lot of times lately it's been blowing up and then it just fizzles out and Ottawa County's missed. But one of those times it's going to stick together, and I literally go out and drive at 3:00 in the morning to make sure we're not getting flooded. And if we do, those contractors, what I do is always prepare, and I always let those contractors know to be on call. I got a list of all their equipment. If we get the big flood like we did in 13 or 2020, we've had some little minor flooding, but it wasn't like 2013. So we're always prepared. That's what keeps me up at night.
The dams that you showed some pictures of where they have the moving gates
Yeah.
to allow more flow or less.
Yep.
Are those remote controlled, or do you have to physically go out there and crank the
Yeah,
wheel?
you go out and crank it. They're set up for solar and do it with an app, but the farmers are so consistent and they got their hands on it and their eyes on it. There's been times where I met them out there at 3 in the morning to make sure they're good.
Okay.
Make sure that people downstream are good and make sure we're not flooding anybody upstream. But the farmers I can't say enough about my relationship with farmers in Ottawa County. They're on call. Like I can call them at 3:00 and say, have you been out by the gate? He's like, I'm just heading out there. You want to meet me out there? So I meet him out there. But yeah, they are set up for remote if need to be. If you get the person maybe that doesn't get along with the farmers that take this job someday, you want to make sure they're still being able to remote and operate. But yeah, those dams are, and speaking of the dams, there's 8 in Ottawa County that we have inspected, and they're regulated through Eagle, through the state. So I have regular, and then any high rain event, we go out and inspect them, but they get inspected every 3 years with a report, have to report for the insurance. So that's all up to date. You know what I mean? Those don't keep me up to date or up at wake too much. If they fail, we're going to know it pretty quickly, but the amount of water isn't like what you're going to see over in the Thumb area a couple years ago, or Texas or anything, or North Carolina. They had a dam fail down there.
Is it your job to maintain those?
Yes.
Or all of them? Okay.
That's
Yeah,
mine.
okay.
Just the 8 that I have authority over.
Gotcha.
The private ones are private, but we still go out and check them out
Yeah.
because the
No-
people are
no
like,
real concerns there either.
no, they wouldn't flood anybody out but the people who run them.
Okay.
So that's why they call me.
Commissioner Medema.
Morning, Joe.
Good morning.
Thanks for bringing your passion. I think since the first day you met,
Absolutely.
you've always been passionate about what you do. So,
Very, very, thank you.
I just have one question for you. You had a couple slides on mowing, brush hogging, and sinkholes. How much of that is shared with the, working with the road commission, and when does it become your work, and when does it become their work?
That's a great question. And I work with the road commission almost every day on sinkholes. If it's a drain and under my authority, and we know that by GIS, because they'll look at GIS and they're like, oh, that looks like a county drain. And then we'll bid it out and do the mowing and take care of it. And then if it's just a normal roadside ditch that is not my authority, the road commission takes care of that. And then the sinkholes, same way. But there's a lot of them. So here's what's happening now that we're running into, and you'll drive around Georgetown or even Allendale. They do the mill and fill. So they'll come in with a mill machine. They'll mill the couple inches off. Those sinkholes or those things pop up because there's already a void. Once that machine starts tearing up the asphalt, becomes a bigger void. And if it's our drain, we go out and fix it before the pavers come in and repave it. But we're on call. We can try to have it fixed within a couple hours. That's how quick we are. Because the pavers aren't very far behind sometimes, behind the mill machine. So, but we coordinate with the road commission every day. But that's a great question.
I'm guessing your mowing and brush hogging is just on your normal schedule? It's not just, or is it by call-in?
By call in, because
Okay.
it varies. Some years, they don't grow that fast, but this year being so dry,
Right.
that seems to be when the weeds take off the fastest. So sometimes it's not a big deal, or it depends on, so we also spray a lot. So we have a spray program. So if we sprayed it, we try to spray every 3 years. We spray about 20, matter of fact, they're coming up again to spray about another 20 miles of drain. If that's on that program, then that's pretty self-sufficient. But there's a lot of times people don't call us until it gets bad, like right now, this time of year. Or if we have a hard winter and things die off, but we're not having very hard winters like we used to. It doesn't stay cold long enough. So we're starting to see a trickle of more brushing and mowing
Is
than we
it
used to.
people's responsibility to know who to call? How does that work? Like if you have an area to mow and brush hog and you said you wait for a call, who typically calls? Is it
The
somebody?
property owners will call very quickly.
Okay, so they have that not
Oh.
working knowledge of that's your work.
Mhm.
Okay,
Or they'll call the road commission and
sure.
like I said, we talk every day. So they'll just look on GIS and go, yeah. And then there's been times where we've been mowing for the road commission because they can't get to it and it's a safety issue. Safety is our number one priority. If it's a safety issue, we don't care at the moment. We'll figure it out later and the road commission will pay us or whatever. We work well together.
So, I've got a couple questions for you, Joe.
Absolutely.
First of all, I got to tell you that I think you do a remarkable job. Your fingerprint is all over this county to keep us,
Thank you.
keep us safe. And you talked about relationships. I would also say that your skill sets are incredible. We're in great hands from my perspective. So thank you for that.
You're
I
welcome.
echo what Jacob just said. All right, so here's a couple questions. So you say there's 1,000 drains, 2 inspectors. You've just mentioned Georgetown wants you to pick up 500 orphan drains.
Yes.
Are you looking and do you see a need under the new budget for additional inspectors?
Yes. There is one request for another inspector. Now, we're not going to do 500 in a year, but Justin over there, their new manager or superintendent, he wants to look at a program. We're going to start looking at those orphan drains that are going to be mill and fill for the road commission and their paving projects. How do we look at that and put something together? But yeah, I did ask a request for another inspector because we've had one since I've been here since 2013 when I got elected, and the amount of work on my staff is especially for the inspector and then me. I don't mind doing it, but there's only so much time in a day besides all the other stuff I got to do. But yeah, there is a request.
Okay, good. In the presentation, you kept referring to the side that dealt with notes and bonds.
Mhm.
What's a note?
Just a borrowing from a bank for like a
Oh,
year.
It's a promissory note.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's all it is.
I see.
Bonds are a little more detailed, like we're going to talk about in Nash Creek Intercounty for the Finance Committee.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just a short-term borrowing.
Yeah. I'm with you.
until we can assess it back, because we only assess one time a year. So we can do the work and then we assess, we have to close our books as September 30. Usually we don't get the money until March. So we won't see money now until March 25 of all the drain work. So that's where the revolving fund is important, or drain notes.
Okay, okay. So we clearly have an aquifer problem, groundwater aquifer problem, right?
That's another issue.
All right.
Yep.
So
I didn't even get into the details on that because for sake of time.
you didn't, but what's being done, Joe, countywide to address this problem, right? Not just, okay, we got a problem, but working with farmers or communicating and, you know, working together to figure out where we're going to be in 10 years or 15 years or 20 or 30 years on this issue.
Well, that's a great question. And I know Paul Sachs and his team are working on those groundwater monitors to monitor and collect data. Because without data and to figure out locations, it's going to be tough on what to do. One of the things that, you know, I'll share, I just went on a trip and I went to the Netherlands. And what I learned from the Netherlands was just simply amazing on how they control their water. So I'm hoping to bring some of that back to Ottawa County and even go further advanced, because they're about 20 years ahead of us on water stuff. Just because they actually drained Michigan 100 years ago, right? They came over and dug all the ditches that I maintain. It was all the Dutch. So they do very good at what they do. And that wasn't a work-related trip either, by the way. My wife will tell you. I ended up working probably 2 days of the trip with the water districts in the Netherlands. So that's a whole nother PowerPoint I'd like to share at some point. But I think, you know, what we're trying to do now is educate ourselves and educate the people who are buying homes and subdivisions, and then what the aquifer looks like. But without having the data and the science behind it, it's hard to really put anything in to implement anything. And that's what Strategic Impact's working on right now. Because, you know, the state is lagging on some of their data as well. So they're relying on Ottawa County to be the leaders in the state on what our issues are. We're not, this isn't unfamiliar around the state. There's other counties starting to have some similar issues over in the Saginaw Bay area. So I think you just have to look at conservation and being smart about it, and looking at opportunities on new technology. And you just got to figure out how to conserve water when it does rain. I think putting up more control structures is an opportunity, but the state doesn't want to permit a lot of different things that we're working on. So that's where I'm meeting with legislators, trying to figure out, does it make sense? I know years ago, our mentality is drain it, but now we're starting to look at how do we preserve it just a little bit and start trying to figure out how to get it in the aquifer. That's the trouble.
So is this really as urgent as I've been hearing about for 6 months? Or is this something that we know it's a problem, we're anticipating a problem, we're trying to be preventative? Or is this something more serious than that?
Well, I think by the phone calls that I get, and I know the townships are getting them, prime example, Zealand Township, there's subdivisions that are starting to dry up and there's no municipal water. And how do you get municipal water? And there's people actually in the Borculo area as well. They have called me and said, we keep drilling their wells down, but every time they drill down, they're running out of water. So that's an issue. How serious is it? I think we need monitoring gauges to see, because the water table does fluctuate, but it's not getting that recharge. And I think there's been enough data collected to say the recharge isn't happening. We know that. The deep aquifer, you go down 20 feet, 40 feet, you can get water, but you go down below over 100 and that deep bedrock, it's not getting a recharge. And there's salt down there that, you know, we've had farmers pull up from the deep wells for irrigation and pull up salt. In the Allendale area, Polkton over there. So I think, you know, you look at that situation, is it serious? I think we need to keep our thumb on it. And I think Paul Sachs and his team is doing a great job with the groundwater board, which I sit on as well, with farmers and other people and business owners, trying to come up with what does that look like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now to conserve that water. That is not available by municipal water, you know. Is it running a line from Lake Michigan and putting it in the ground somewhere and pumping it back in the ground? You know, I don't know. Those have been discussions. And then the other part is cost, right? The cost of infrastructure. Future planning is going to be important, I think, for the newer subdivisions, which there is a lot of planning that go into it for subdivisions. Make sure they have municipal sewer and water. And then working with the health department, working with Addie's team. I know he's back there, on these well permits, and you just try to find creative solutions. And we just got to be thinking outside the box and make sure that water is so critical. It's such a big need when you need it, and everybody drinks it. We just want to make sure we protect it. And how do we do that? And I think it's by putting good leadership in and making sure that we look at all of our options and just work together.
Yeah, it's clearly going to take a lot of stakeholders to figure this one
There
out.
it is. It's not a simple solution, and I think it's a long game. It's not a short game. But we need to make sure farmers can irrigate and people have water.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys keeping this on the forefront.
And I spend a lot of time with my colleagues across the state because I'm super involved in our association. I'm the legislative chair, have been for 9 years of the MACDC, and I talk to my colleagues across the state on water. And I'll hit what Allison said. It's a passion of mine. I love this job. So I'll do what I can to serve these residents and give the best ability of bringing what I can and helping it for the future for our kids and grandkids.
Thanks.
Very good. Well,
Yep.
Joe, thank
Any
you
more?
for-
I think I'm way over. So
Yeah, exactly. We planned on you going over. Anyway.
thanks.
For
Any
your-
other questions?
Thank
Yeah,
you
hey,
for the Open door policy, we can talk to you anytime.
you
and,
guys can talk
thank
to
you for
me.
your passion and thanks for what you're doing here in Ottawa County. We appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
plan on you staying here.
Don't know what that means, but anyway, I appreciate your guys.
I just said it.
I appreciate your guys' support as well, as always. And again, I'm always open door. Anybody knows where I'm at to find me, and I'm happy to take them on a road trip and I can't answer anything from Gary.
Gary's
No,
got
I'm
one-
just
Gary's
kidding.
got one comment. Sorry, Joe, you got to stay up there.
I got one suggestion. If you got a couple hours, it's worth taking Joe out for lunch and having him talking to you about a Netherlands trip. Again, I was extremely impressed when Joe came back and shared everything he learned in the Netherlands and how that, has influence on what we do in the future. So, again, thanks, Joe, for that.
You're welcome. I'm happy to share that.
Good, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Good. Next, we have Community Action Agency, and the report is from Jennifer Brzezinski. Good morning.
Good morning. I think after that, I probably have, 90 seconds left to,
Oh, you're fine.
no, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. So Ottawa County Community Action Agency, our fiscal report for FY '24. Just a reminder of our mission statement. Oh, I should probably see if this works, huh? Perfect. Yes. So our mission is to reduce the effects of financial hardships by empowering individuals and families to achieve economic independence. And I'll kind of walk through with our programs what that means. Looks like, oh, that's weird. The chart didn't show up. Hopefully it shows up in your packet and I can walk through it a little bit, but there's a chart in there. So just a little bit about why we serve. So I know that Ottawa County is fastly growing and we have kind of a higher income levels in our county. But surprisingly, we actually have 26% of our population was within the ALICE population, which is asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So these are folks that are working and just struggling to get by. There are also 11% of people in the county that are at or below that poverty line. So this is really why we're helping individuals, because the need is there. So we're helping them with a variety of programs. And unfortunately, what you can't see from the chart, we have a lot of our programs are anywhere from 150% of the poverty level all the way up to 250% of the poverty level. So those programs are mainly our utility assistance program and our weatherization program as well. Well, shoot, looks like none of the charts are showing up for some reason. Did they show up in your packet?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so the public has them too. So this breaks down the ALICE population a little bit more. It's quite shocking, honestly. So this data is from 2023. It comes out a little delayed. So if you look at 2 adults, a household of 4, so 2 adults and 2 children in childcare, childcare alone is over $1,200. So if you just think about somebody that's making, I think the example here is a household of two making $81,000 a year. That's a huge chunk of their paychecks that are going to childcare, and that's just one example. So we have at least about 37% of households in Ottawa County are struggling to afford their essential needs, and that's where we come in with our utilities and other programs. So thankfully this shows up. So more about who we served, how many people we served. We served almost 1,400 individuals, so 1,387. And to break that down a little bit further, we had 842 households, 610 adults over 60. We have a lot of individuals in that population on Social Security struggling to get by. 352 children, 24 veterans and active military. We also have a lot of single-parent households, and in total, 461 households that are below the federal poverty level. Oh, it's up to you all. Does it? I would say maybe if the public has access to it, then we can go with that, if that's okay. Just to save time because of Joe. I'm just kidding. I had to do it. I had to do it. So as far as demographic information, so what you see primarily, again in the packet, the majority of those that we're serving are in that southwest quadrant, so in the in Holland area. And we're seeing not as many that we're serving in northeast and northwest, as well as southeast. We have been trying different efforts to expand our services because we know that there is need in those areas. I don't think that it's just primarily in the Holland area. So we've tried to do different events at like mobile home parks, for example, because some of those populations might struggle with income and different utilities and things like that. It hasn't taken off as much as we would like, but we are focusing a lot more efforts now that we're making some transitions with other programs to concentrate efforts in the entire county to make sure that everybody that needs the services is getting the services. So the Commodity Supplemental Food Program, or Senior Food Program, you probably saw a press release around that or a Gov Delivery email. Although we are no longer running that program, it is still happening, so it didn't go anywhere. In this past year, we distributed just under 4,400 boxes to seniors in need. We averaged, or we served just over 500 individuals, 519 individuals, and we averaged 366 boxes that we were doing per month. In the article, we talked about the different things that we try to do. We pivoted quite a bit over the 5 years that I've been in this role. It went from us driving around a box truck with a staff of 5 trying to distribute it. Then we transitioned to having Feeding America assist us with the packing and delivering of the boxes. And then we onboarded DoorDash as well. I think that we've tried pretty much everything possible to make the program work. And unfortunately, just due to the low funding that program has always received, it just didn't make sense for such a small team to try to run the program. So now the pantries will be running it, which I think will be much better for everybody. And it'll be a lot more cost effective as well. So we still do have another food program, which is our Emergency Food Assistance Program, or TFAP. And that is a program in which we are ordering the food and we're distributing to local pantries. And a lot of those pantries will be the same ones that'll be assisting with the senior food program. In the last fiscal year, we distributed over 232,000 pounds of food that was going to local food pantries. So we're really proud of that work. We have awesome partnerships with our pantries. They're in the quadrants of all the quadrants of the county. And again, those will be pantries that are going to be assisting our seniors as well moving forward. Utility assistance, Thankfully, this is showing up. So as you see, the huge majority of the funding is coming from the state with our Michigan Energy Assistance Program. But we also have really amazing local partnerships that I'll touch on in a little bit. So about 25.8% is coming from our local utility grants that we have. We also have a water affordability grant that we're helping with past due water bills. And then lastly is our fundraise dollars for our Walk for Warmth. We want to be able to supplement what we can't assist in other areas. Like I mentioned, that federal poverty level, it doesn't always account for all of the Alice population. So when we have a lot of Walk for Warmth funds, we can be more flexible and we can help individuals that are going above and beyond that 200% of federal poverty. So shout out to our local utility grants. We have great partnerships with Holland Board of Public Works. We have a program with them, and we also have a program with the Zeeland Board of Public Works as well. We're going to be looking to expand some programs with Zeeland in the coming months, doing more home energy education for individuals in need. And we're also doing some of that work for the Holland Board of Public Works customers as well. So a little overview on Walk for Warmth, because it is our one fundraiser that we have a year currently. You'll see a lot of ups and downs in that fundraise dollars. We had some larger contributions back in 22. We had a large donation from Semco Energy, and that has come down quite a bit. So we're really reevaluating and trying to find ways that we can up those dollars. We poured a lot into the event itself, making it fun and having balloons and food and all of those things. Commissioner Barry, thank you for being there. I see you shaking your head, so thanks. It was a great time. We want it to be a fun, family-friendly event, and we also want to be able to raise dollars for the community. That's the main goal. So we'll be reevaluating the person that was overseeing the senior food program. Her role has been shifting over the last couple of years to look at ways that we can expand programming, improve events like this, and make sure that the community is aware of what we do and how important it is to keep those dollars, raise dollars and keep them in the community. Our home weatherization program is probably one that receives the most funding. We do a lot of work on homes. We weatherized 46 homes in the last fiscal year. And I say this all the time. Before I worked here, I had no idea what weatherization is. I thought winterization, and we had the opportunity of being on WHTC last week. Hopefully you got a chance to hear it, and we talk a little bit more about what that means and why it's important to do year round. It's not just a winter thing. So some of these pictures, again, not working in the program all the time, I had to ask what the heck is happening here. So in the top before and after picture, this is sealing around the stack for a furnace. If you don't do that and there wasn't that sealing prior to going into weatherize, you're losing air. You're losing air from your furnace. So you're paying more and getting less heat in the home. And then the lower two pictures, in the previous picture, there wasn't any insulation in that area. I think this is the picture of in a basement area. And when there's not that insulation, you're going to lose cool air in the summertime. You're going to lose heat in the wintertime. So we really want to make sure that our income eligible individuals are able to, when they're paying their utility bills, or we're assisting them with a utility bill, we want to make sure that they're getting the most bang for their buck. So weatherization is really essential to be able to keep those costs low in the home. We also have a weatherization deferral program. So essentially what that is trying to remediate some of the issues that are keeping us from weatherizing a home. So in the pictures here, you'll see a roof that's in pretty rough shape. If we were to go in and weatherize that home, obviously we're still going to have air leakage in and out of the home. So what we're able to do with these funds is go in, make these necessary repairs. We have people that still have knob and tube in their home, which is really unsafe. We might have plumbing issues, again, the roof repairs, other electrical repairs. So these dollars have been really helpful, not just so that we're able to go in and weatherize the home, we're making these homes a lot more safer. And then it's also, when we have a housing crisis, it's really important that we keep individuals in their homes, because once they have an unsafe home and they have to leave, then we run into more of that, the housing shortage and having people find more affordable housing. Our home sustainability programs, we have quite a few, and these are mainly fee-for-service programs. So we're getting some type of fee for all of them except for water repair, going in and doing a service in the home. So we're not just relying on federal grants, but we also have fee-for-service programs that are serving the community. So our SEMCO full pay is when we're able to go in and replace a water heater or a furnace for a SEMCO customer that's income eligible. We did 3 water repairs that help with some of those high water costs in the home. We did 97 housing quality standards inspections. We have a partnership with Community Mental Health. So individuals that are living independently in rental units, we go in and make sure that their rental units are safe. Same with resilience, we do that for them as well. And then we have a Home Energy 101 program that is educating individuals in the Holland area on energy usage and how to keep those bills low. How am I doing on time, Regina? Am I right? Okay. Almost finished up here. So 5-year overview, kind of where we're at. You're going to see a decline in the total households that we served over the last couple of years. And that's mainly due to the decline in the COVID grants that we had from 2020 on. So again, once the COVID dollars decrease, we had to really try to find other ways to support our programs like fee for service and our fundraise dollars as well. As you see on the bar chart on the top right, a lot of our funding is coming from those state grants. And again, some of it from our local partners that I talked about before. Below you'll see CSFP and kind of how it's ebbed and flowed throughout the years. We had 2022 was a little low in that program, but we were able to ramp it up with the help of DoorDash. And then lastly, Homes Weatherize, we've definitely expanded that program, going from 20 in the year 2020 all the way to 46 homes. We're hoping to keep that number rising so that we can impact the most individuals in the county that we can. And just a reminder, we always put these pictures of our team. And I think it's the reason we do that is so that people remember we're not a huge call center, although it feels like it sometimes when it's shut off season. But we're a team of 8 and we work really hard to make sure we can assist the most individuals we can every year. Any questions?
I'm just curious, a lot of your funding comes through state grants and I guess we're in budget season. So how much of that is like pass-throughs from federal grants and
Sure.
how are you feeling about future funding streams?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So state, the one that stays within the state of Michigan that's not a pass-through is the Michigan Energy Assistance Plan. That's for our utility program. So feeling pretty good about that. We might have more funds coming our way. We should be finding out in the next several weeks. Some of our other programs that are federal and passed through, those are uncertain at this time. So unfortunately, there were some of our grant dollars on one of the versions of the federal budget that were zeroed out. So we're uncertain. So we're hoping that just by getting the word out and talking about how important our programs are, that will help when it comes times to work through the budget.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question? I wish I had better answers. It's kind of a...
Maybe what specific services
Which
are
ones?
affected by that?
Yeah. Weatherization would be one. That's a federal program, and that's the one, like I mentioned, that we received probably the most federal funds for, and that's impacting a lot of households in the area. And then our kind of our foundational grant that we use that picks up the slack for other programs is the Community Services Block Grant. That's another one that in a version of the budget was showed up zeroed out. That would be a tough one as well, because again, it's picking up where other grants might not fill in all of those gaps. So it's covering like my time to be here today, for example, or it's picking up like the food program, for example, when we were struggling there, it's kind of covering those costs. But yeah, I think currently we're about 80% federal funded. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks for the question.
Hi.
Hi.
I just have some questions about the commodity supplemental
Sure.
food program
Mhm.
and the changes that are happening there. So it looks like like 5 food banks are going to be helping out with that now. And can you just name those so the public knows
Sure.
where to access?
Yes. I don't want to misspeak, so I'm going to just pull up my notes.
I think it's in your packet, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I just found it. Thanks.
Okay.
So Coopersville Cares, Harvest Stand Ministries, Jehovah Jireh Ministries, which is in the Hudsonville area. Love and Action, actually that's going to be overseen by Salvation Army in Grand Haven. So the Grand Haven area will be covered there. And then the Salvation Army Holland. So anybody that was already signed up for our program received a letter. So they will know specifically which pantry to go to.
Okay.
So somebody from Grand Haven can't come to Holland. We want to make sure we have enough food for them. So anybody that was in our program would have received a letter and pointed where to go
Okay.
and when. Mhm.
So one concern that I have about that change
Mhm.
is the delivery was such an important part
Yeah,
of that because
absolutely.
people have such a hard time getting out to get their groceries,
Sure.
which honestly, I was super surprised, when I was door knocking to find
Mhm.
what rough shape some of our senior citizens are in that are living by themselves.
Sure.
So has any work been done to talk with these pantries that are going to be receiving the foods to see if anything can be done to help with that, with the deliveries? Like for
Mhm.
instance, has Lakeshore Nonprofit Alliance been notified of this change? Just to see if there's anything we can do to advocate for
Sure.
some deliveries.
Lakeshore Nonprofit Alliance, I don't know, I'm trying to think specifically if we've talked to them, but I would say that as far as the pantries go, there is one, I think Harvest Stand is going to try to do some home deliveries. And because this is so new, it'll take a little bit of time to sort out. It is possible that some of the pantries will have a larger set of volunteers that can do some home delivery, so it could alleviate some of that. I know that we tried really hard, even just to get volunteers to come and help us with the distribution, loading into cars, and we struggled there. So I honestly think that moving into the pantry structure, there might be more resources and more larger pools of volunteers that can try to work together or work with community churches or whatever that may look like to do some of that home delivery. We wanted to keep it going. That was definitely not a goal of ours. Unfortunately, the funding that we had ran short, and the grants that we applied to didn't quite pan out. There is a cost, a pretty hefty cost associated with it, but I'm hopeful that pantries will be able to, we can work with them to try to find some volunteers or other solutions.
Okay. So one other thought on that is, were there particular families that you were working with? Like, do you have any particular individuals that, you could say, hey, when I look at this list, I know these particular people will be greatly affected and the transportation is an issue. And if any of those individuals come to mind, could you pass those names on to the pantry? So maybe they could prioritize, if you have some volunteers, is there any way you can try to hit these people?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe our food program coordinator is doing some of that work already for those that are truly homebound. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the individual themselves that comes, that comes to pick up. It could be a volunteer, it could be somebody, family member, a friend, whomever it may be. So that's an option for them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
This time it is a second chance for public comment. Is there any public comment at this time?
Good morning, Commissioners. Becky Patrick, Allendale. Just a brief comment on the groundwater discussion. I just wanted to make sure you were all aware that Allendale Township, where I reside, has put restrictions in place that require all new development to be on municipal water. So I applaud them for doing that. That's a very tough decision to do and to make because people love their groundwater because they think it's free. So I really applaud their forward thinking on that, and that's been in place since 2019, and I want you to be aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anybody online?
Is there anybody online?
No. that's all I
No,
got.
it is, I just want to say thank you and congratulations to Rachel Sanchez on her 25th anniversary with us. I know that myself and probably most all of us have her number on our speed dial, and I'm sure there's many in the staff and throughout the state, likewise, keep your number close to make sure that we take advantage of your knowledge and your experience. So thank you. Congratulations again.
You. Seeing nothing else, meeting adjourned. Do we need 10 minutes to come back before you're ready, Regina? You guys ready? Okay. 10 minutes. Sound good with you, Jacob? Good,
That's
Chair?
good.